Hey, book lovers, welcome to While I Read. I'm Katie Dodrell, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite thriller series. Of course, there are a lot of standalone thrillers that I love, authors like Ruth Ware and Lucy Foley. All of their books are standalone thrillers and they're great, but today I'm going to focus on some series that I love. Hopefully, this will give you some great recommendations that you can try. We'll start with the Alias Emma series by Ava Glass. This series has 3 books in it so far: Alias Emma, The Traitor, and The Trap, which is going to be published in September of 2024. So, this series is about a British spy named Emma Makepeace. In the first book, Alias Emma, she's trying to get her asset across London during the night when the Russians have hacked into the British CCTV cameras. So that book is just so exciting, pulse pounding. In the second book, The Traitor, Emma is going undercover on a yacht belonging to a Russian oligarch. And in the third book, The Trap, which I haven't read yet, Emma is at the G7 summit in Edinburgh trying to prevent a high profile assassination of a world leader. So these books are just all very exciting, action packed. When I start reading one of these books, I cannot put them down. So if that sounds good to you, then you should try the Alias Emma series. Next, I want to talk about the Detective Marlitt Kaplan series by Lauren Nossett. This series is set at the University of Georgia in Athens, so I love the college campus setting. It's about a police detective named Marlitt. In the first book in the series, The Resemblance, Marlitt is trying to solve the death of a fraternity member. And in the second book, The Professor, she's investigating the murder of a student, where one of his professors that Marlitt knows is suspected of murdering him. So these books are really fun campus thrillers. They could be described as dark academia. I really enjoyed them because they're very thought provoking books. I love books that are set on a college campus, and especially a college campus that I'm somewhat familiar with UGA. So this is a really good series. There are only 2 books in it so far, but I hope there will be more soon. Next, I want to talk about the Cormoran Strike series by Robert Galbraith. Of course, Robert Galbraith is a pseudonym for J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books. The Cormoran Strike books couldn't be more different from Harry Potter. These books are about Cormoran Strike, who was a member of the British military. He lost a leg fighting in Afghanistan. Now he is a private detective. And so there are 7 books in the series so far. It follows Cormoran starting his detective agency. He takes on a temporary secretary named Robin Ellicott, who over the course of the series ends up becoming his partner in the detective agency. So in these books, they investigate the murder of a model, they investigate the murder of a famous author. Robin ends up going undercover in a cult in one of the books. They are just so good. There's a slow burn romance going on between Robin and Strike that's really fun to read. So I have just really enjoyed this series. I'm always excited when a new one is published in it. So you should definitely check out the Cormoran Strike series. My next thriller series recommendation is the Bailey Weggins series by Kate White. The main character in this series, Bailey Weggins, starts off as a writer for a women's magazine. She's a true crime writer. The magazine is sort of like Cosmopolitan magazine, which the author Kate White used to be the editor-in-chief of. So in the first book, Bailey is investigating the death of the nanny of the magazine editor. As the series continues, Bailey takes on different jobs. I think by the most recent book in the series, she's working for a website because, of course, magazines, I guess they still exist, but not a lot of people read them anymore. So in every book, Bailey is investigating some kind of mysterious death. There's one where she goes to a spa and people have been murdered there. There's one where she's investigating the disappearance of a mother who goes for a run one morning and never returns. So in all of these books, Bailey is usually writing some kind of story about the murder that's happened, and she ends up investigating the murder as she writes the story. They're set in a lot of different places. Some are in New York, some are in kind of the surrounding countryside. Bailey is a really fun character. I always like reading about a writer. Kate White, even though she's a thriller author, her books always have a little bit of a cozy feel to me. I guess just from the descriptions of the settings and the descriptions of the food. She's got some good descriptions of food, but they're always really exciting, fun, fast-paced books. Next, I want to talk about the Detective Elin Warner series by Sarah Pearse. There are 3 books in this series: The Sanatorium, The Retreat, and The Wilds. The Sanatorium is about a sanatorium in the Swiss Alps that has been abandoned for many years, but it is renovated into a 5-star hotel. So Detective Elin Warner goes there for a wedding. She's not really happy about being there, but while she's there, there are some murders that take place that she has to figure out. I actually ended up DNFing this book, or sort of DNFing it. I did skip and skim to the end to find out what happened. It was just a little too scary and a little too gory for me. It was almost a horror novel rather than a thriller novel, although a lot of people liked it. But even though I didn't love that book, I still picked up the second one in the series, The Retreat. In that one, Elin is called to an isolated island off the coast of England where she is trying to solve the murder of a guest at this retreat. It's like a wellness retreat. And I liked that one a lot better. It was scary, but it wasn't quite as gory as the sanatorium to me. And so then the third book, The Wilds, features Elin and her brother on a hiking trip to Portugal, where she and her brother end up investigating a woman's disappearance there not too long ago. And Sarah Pearse has said that The Wilds is the last book in the Elin Warner series. So I did enjoy this series, especially The Retreat and The Wilds. They're both exciting books. I like the setting in all of the books, the sort of isolated area of, the Swiss Alps Hotel, the island, the national park. I always enjoy these isolated settings. I really liked the character of Elin. She's a very complicated character, and the series does a good job of kind of following her and showing us why she behaves the way she does and sort of wrapping up her story at the end of it. So you should definitely try the Detective Elin Warner series. My next recommendation is the Mike Bowditch series by Paul Doirun. This series is about a game warden in Maine named Mike Bowditch. In Maine, game wardens are basically police officers. The crimes that they investigate usually involve nature in some way. So nature is always pretty much a character in the books. The books describe some isolated areas in Maine, areas in the wilderness, or even islands off the coast in some of the books. My favorite book in the series is the 12th book, Dead by Dawn. I actually started the series with that book, and that's a good thing about the series. You can jump in anywhere and read them as a standalone book if you want to. Dead by Dawn has dual timelines going on. It starts when Mike is ambushed and ends up crashing his car into a river, and he has to survive the crash and then get out, and he's in an isolated location where he has to survive. Someone is chasing him and trying to kill him. Meanwhile, we have alternating chapters where they're telling what Mike has been doing during that day that caused him to be ambushed and pursued by these people who were trying to kill him. So that was a really exciting book. All of the books in this series are just very exciting, beautiful descriptions of nature. You should definitely try it. Next, let's talk about the Henry Kimball and Lily Kintner series by Peter Swanson. This series has 3 books: The Kind Worth Killing, The Kind Worth Saving, and A Talent for Murder. So in this series, Lily Kintner is a librarian who is also sort of a vigilante. Basically, she goes after people who need killing for whatever reason. So even though she is morally questionable, I just can't help really liking her character, really rooting for her. She is the only librarian vigilante that I have ever heard of, so she's really fun to read about. Henry Kimball is a police detective. Later, he starts his own private detective agency. And he and Lily start off at odds with each other in the first book, but then they kind of work together in the other books. So their relationship is really interesting to read about. Their characters are just really interesting to follow. So I really enjoyed this series. These 3 books are pretty dark. It's darker than most of the books or series that I read, but I really enjoy it. Next, I want to tell you about the Quinn and Costa series by Allison Brennan. In this series, we're following an LAPD detective named Kara Quinn. She is on leave from the LAPD because she had an undercover assignment that went wrong. Matt Costa is an FBI special agent who has just become the head of the FBI's mobile response team that travels around to different areas of the country to help local police with difficult crimes. So there are 5 books in this series so far. In the first book, Costa and Quinn are working with the mobile response team to investigate a serial killer, and there's a ticking clock aspect to it that makes it really exciting. In my favorite book in the series, they are in Louisiana. They are solving a murder that took place in the bayou. So it's just a really fun, exciting series. Quinn and Costa kind of have a romance going on. We find out a lot about their individual characters and their backgrounds. It's a fun, exciting series that's set in a lot of different locations because the mobile response team travels around so much. So you should definitely try the Quinn and Costa series. The last series I want to talk about is the Martini Club series by Tess Gerritsen. I feel a little silly calling this a series because there has only been 1 book published in it so far, and that is The Spy Coast. But there is a second book scheduled to be published in March. The author has said that it's going to be a series. So in the first book, The Spy Coast, our main character is Maggie, and she has retired to a chicken farm in Maine, and she's just living a very quiet, retired life. But she did used to be a spy for the CIA. And in this book, her past catches up to her when she finds a dead body in her yard, and then people start trying to murder her. So it turns out that there are several other retired CIA agents living in this small town in Maine who are interested in helping Maggie. So they all work together to try to figure out what's going on. They call themselves the Martini Club. There's also a cop in this town named Joe Thibodeau who is really fun to read about. She is trying to figure out, who are these people? Why do they have so much knowledge about crime and that kind of thing? These, retirees that you wouldn't think would know about some of these things. So I really enjoyed the first book in this series. The second book, which will be published in March, is called The Summer Guest. And in this one, a teenager in their small Maine town disappears, and the Martini Club is trying to figure out what happened to her. So, like I said, the first book in this series was really good. I liked the setting. They also traveled to some exotic locations, and I just love books featuring an older sleuth or detective as the main character. So, I definitely recommend this series. So that's it for my list of my favorite thriller series. Do you like any of these series, or do you have any other thriller series that you would recommend? Please let me know in the comments. If you liked this video and want to see more book recommendations and reviews, please subscribe to my channel. Now, go for a walk in the woods while I read.